Hey everyone. Most founders do not lose because they lack talent, ideas, or effort. They lose because they run out of money, miss the timing of the market, or hold on too tightly to the way things used to work. And now, with AI changing how work gets done, the bigger risk is not just falling behind technologically. It is attaching your identity and sense of purpose to tasks that may no longer create the highest value. I'm Doug C. Brown, and today my guest, Kevin Surace, known by many as the father of the AI assistant, is going to reveal why product market timing beats intelligence, why jealousy kills founder clarity, how AI is forcing leaders to redefine purpose, and why joy may be one of the most overlooked drivers of resilience, adaptability, and long-term success. If you want to build a company that can adapt before the market forces you to, this conversation is for you.
Hey, Kevin, welcome to the CEO Sales Strategies Podcast. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So, Kevin, you have I love your background. So, can you kind of give people you are the father of, if you will?
Yes, I'm known as the father of the AI assistant and voice AI to some people. So everything that later became Siri, Alexa, everything else, Google Voice, really came out of technology we worked on at General Magic and got licensed to all those other companies. I have 95 worldwide patents, mostly in AI, but in a few other fields as well. Look, I've built companies, I've run companies, I've gotten companies to be valued at over $1 billion, and I've created companies. So we have lots to talk about.
And every one of your companies just went straight up, right? There was never any up, down.
No, many times it's straight down. It's rarely straight down. What it is, look, I like to say this about startups of any sort, right? They only die for one reason, and everyone's going to come up with different reasons, but you're wrong. They only die because they eventually run out of money, right? Otherwise, you'd keep trying, right? You'd change the business model. I mean, often we are doing companies where you've changed the business model 5 or 10 times before you sort of nailed it, right? And part of that is customer feedback. Part of it is that your original vision doesn't align with market needs. Part of it's pricing, whatever it is, right? And what happens is on that journey of the second plan, the third plan, the fourth turn, the fifth turn, the sixth turn, you run out of money at some point. People get tired, you run out of money, then it's over. If you didn't run out of money, you'd still be there. So don't run out of money. You can go a long, long time if you don't run out of money. And look, I know there's this whole, certainly for the last decade or so about blitz scaling, which is take every dime you've got, throw it at marketing and everything else, especially social media marketing, and either blitz scale or close. And look, that is it's not what I do, but that is what some people do today. And they're in and out of the business in like a year. It didn't blitz scale, they're done. And I get that, right? Because the big outcomes are coming today from companies that primarily in the AI space, right? Primarily, and literally go from worth nothing to worth $12 billion in a year, and they blitz scaled something, right? But there's other companies that just have $1 billion exit that don't even make the news anymore because it's only $1 billion. And trust me, you will be happy with $1 billion exit or a $2 billion exit, right? Those are life changing. Whether it's $2 billion or $20 billion, they both changed your life.
Yeah,
they really did. I mean, in one case you have a jet, and the other one you don't own a jet. But it doesn't matter. They're good outcomes, right?
One you own a jet, one you own a prop plane. But still, it's
right. That's right. That's exactly right. Either way, you're flying first class, right?
It's so I want to cue in on this 5 to 10 years thing because I think this is so critical. Whether you're in an AI business or not in an AI business today, I think it's so critical. Because I know I've had that happen. Like, it took me, I've got one business right now we've been working on for 6 years.
Yep.
And we know it'll work, but again, market conditions, things change. You find out, the idea that you had isn't exactly what the market wants. And then, so you've got to kind of change and pivot. What's the mental game that we go through as a entrepreneur to be able to persevere through that process from your perspective?
Let's see. Back there, you'll see the cover of a book called The Joy Success Cycle, which is coming out in September 2026. And or will be out, whatever, whenever you're watching this, right? And I talk about that in the book. Is that you have patience. You have to have patience and perseverance, right? And look, a lot of people don't have that, and that's fine. And maybe entrepreneurship isn't for you, or leading a startup isn't for you, whatever. You also have to be willing to fail. There could be minor fails, like, wow, I was sure this product was going to work and nobody likes it, but I still have a company because I still have 10 million in the bank. Okay, great pivot. Great pivot. Slack is the ultimate pivot. It was a gaming company, but nobody was using their games. They hated their games, but they liked the little texting kind of thing they had on the side for messages. And so they just built that out and killed the game business completely. Like that's 872 degrees from gaming, and still they did it. So look, anyone can change. I mean, you could be in the AI business and decide that there's a need for desk chairs, and you're going to go into that business. As long as you have money left and a board that will support you, you can still pivot. And look, I have known many businesses that I won't name some now, but there's some in Silicon Valley that are now kind of approaching 20 years old. They did not have any real success till about year 15. Now, that is not the traditional business, but they were making some money. They had a little bit of cash flow, so there was no reason to go out of business, but they didn't knock it out of the park. They didn't nail that product market fit till about year 15. And part of it was just technology. We had to catch up, and there's all these things, right? And so don't get upset. Remember, the stories that we read are of the massive successes. 3 guys in a garage are valued at $20 billion and they don't have a product yet. I know those people, right? I know why they're valued at that. I know what they show the VCs. I get that. You don't have that. One of the things we talk about in the book is don't be jealous of your neighbor, right? Jealousy is the thief of joy. So when you read these things and you go, well, I should be that good, and I should be. Look, you came from a different background with a different set of skills, with a different product line, with a different idea. You're not those people, and you can't be. So you can't be jealous of it. It's like, good for them. It's 3 guys in a garage that are somehow worth $20 billion today. That it shouldn't be, but it is. And that's not going to be you. Or you go, oh, OpenAI is already worth $1 trillion. Well, first of all, they are 10 years old now. They are not 1 year old. Let's just be clear, right? And they're heading to an IPO. Are they worth $1 trillion? The market will tell us eventually. Nonetheless, the chance of you being worth $1 trillion and still be in the private market is, let me think, 0. So don't be jealous of that. Learn from it. Find it's interesting. So stop being jealous. Run your own business. Try to get to a place where you're just not burning a lot of cash. I mean, that's always the thing. It buys you time. And Doug, that's what you're certainly doing in that business that's now 6 years old. You go, I'm just not going to burn a lot of cash because we need time to get to where we need to get to in the market so that there's product market fit. Friend of mine, Southern California, it's actually a TED Talk. It's a great TED Talk. He did an analysis of 100 plus companies that he had funded out of his incubator. And what he learned was this. The smartest teams didn't win necessarily. It wasn't that. It wasn't those who raised the most money. It wasn't those with the most experience. It wasn't any of those things. It was those who happened to get product market timing right. Period. They happened to nail the market right at the right time. And then you couldn't stop it. He had the smartest teams happen to do that. He had dumbest teams happen to do that. And still they all made a fortune because they just happened to get the market timing right. We all think we're late. The truth is we're often early. And we may be early because the technology's not ready. We may be early because the market isn't ready. One of my companies is an AI company. We were delivering really sophisticated AI 10 years ago to the quality assurance space, software quality assurance space. And nobody could even understand it. They didn't even know why you'd want it. I said, well, this does what like 50 people are doing right now. Now, you can redeploy those people. There's a lot of things you can do, but this is really good. Oh, why would we want that? It's 100 times more productive than what you're doing today. Why would we want that? That's not how we work. They couldn't even accept that would happen. Now, today, there's more acceptance of that. But 10 years ago, that product was too early. It was a breakthrough. There's no question. We have all these patents, and same is true probably with voice AI. The first voice assistant, we had 3.5 million users, but we didn't have 3.5 billion users. We're 3.5 million, including OnStar Virtual Advisor and the Quest Virtual Assistant and all these things. But not everybody was ready for that. Not everybody was ready to talk to Mary, who was an artificial intelligent being that you could have a conversation with. In 1998, I thought I was late. I was probably 30 years early.
Well, I mean, we've run across this just with the EBITDA multiplier, right? So when we go in and we talk to people, and it's not I mean, we have tech that supports it. We built our own software out of it. But when we go in sometimes and talk to people about EBITDA, then they're like, what's that?
Right. Well, startups are notoriously not startups are not notoriously not valued on EBITDA, on multiples of EBITDA, right? Multiples of revenue. And that's because they're trying to drive, call it 100% or more a year growth. And to do that, you're taking every dime and then some and just throwing it at marketing, sales, everything else. But there is a point as you approach an IPO and as you're in the public market for a while that the public markets will expect EBITDA, or they won't invest in you, and they will expect a reasonable multiple on that EBITDA. And then things have to change. And we've seen this. So, that's where sometimes the person who led the company all the way up to the IPO, who was just burning money because it's all about growth, sometimes they may not be the right person to then turn that into an EBITDA positive business that grows at 30% a year and gets a 7x multiple on the public markets. Those would be lovely numbers in almost any business, right? And they're not used to that. They're used to 40x revenue. Well, the public markets aren't going to value that. They'll give you a year or two or three, but they're not giving you 10. And so you might not be the right person to continue on. And by the way, that's an honorable thing to do. Hand that to someone who is an operator who runs a 35% growth business that has great EBITDA, and they're going to get the highest multiple for the shareholders. And by the way, for you. So, and it's okay. People yell at me when I say that. One of my favorite stories is the founder of TriNet, very big, company in the HR, kind of combined HR space, right? PEO space. And he's the nicest guy. He's from upstate New York. I know him well. And he took himself out of the CEO role almost immediately, as soon as he could, as soon as things were running and they could hire a professional. He says, why would I want to run it? I can hire a professional. I'm still chairman of the board. I could still be the chief strategy officer. I can do a lot of things, but I can hire a professional to grow this business now that we've got it stable and, and really know how to grow it and finance it. And, that it would probably work to the tune of billions of dollars, right? It turned out that worked really well. And he knew where his strengths were. And his strengths were not running that kind of company day to day with, 10,000, 20,000 employees. So smart human.
Is that what Google did? Like Sergio and Brent got to a certain point and then they...
Yeah, it's Sergey and Larry, who I know, both of them, and brought in Eric Schmidt. And they recruited Eric Schmidt from Novell. And they literally knew that they needed, quote unquote, adult supervision. Look, at the time they were quite young, early 20s. And when the business really started to take off, now the business didn't take off in terms of money. Here's a little bit of a story. It's a fun story. It took off in terms of usage. Like it was just one of 5 or 6 or 7 search engines, but they had a better algorithm and it worked really well. And they didn't have a crowded front page like Yahoo and Alta Vista and the others. They had a blank front page that just had a box on it. It said search. And so you did, and people loved it. And then the thing just really took off that way. But they weren't making any money. They were burning money like crazy. So they bring in Eric, and Eric, is an operator. He's actually ex-Sun. He knew hardware and software. He knew how to run factories. Right? He's an operator from Sun Microsystems. Went to Novell. And then so they recruit him. Big risk for Eric, who was already top of game. So he comes into this startup, has zero revenue, millions and millions of daily users. And he says, I think there's a play here to do something with advertising. and the two kids at the time, young, go over my dead body. Are we going to do that? Because we're going to corrupt the results. And we're all about results here. And we're all about pristine results, right? Well, eventually he convinces them that they have to. I mean, at this point, they're borrowing from friends and relatives to just keep the servers on, literally. Mm-hmm. And so he convinces them they need to try it, and they'll separate them out. So it'll be very clear on the top or to the side that ads, right? Very clear. And that ad business, it was called something else at the time, AdWorks or Google Ad, not AdSense. I'll think of it. Anyway, when it first came out, I was one of the first customers of it. What was brilliant is you could sign yourself up. You didn't have to go through people and all that. You just register, put your ads up, and they go through some review, but within an hour, they're out there playing. Mm-hmm. Okay, that became the largest, source of advertising, really user of advertising dollars, I guess, in the world within like 2-3 years. And it just sucked it out of newspapers, out of television, out of radio. People redeployed their ad budgets towards search. It was a brilliant call by Eric, but Eric was just trying to save the business. They're going to go under if they didn't do something. And so then after that, they were quiet about it, the kids, and go, they're not kids anymore, but, both Sergey and Larry, I think, were exceptionally happy when they saw the valuation of the company going up quite rapidly and them becoming billionaires, tens of billionaires, then 100+ billionaires, both of them. And then you go, this advertising thing, it's a good idea in the end. Yeah. And then we were careful to not corrupt. So, and then, they came back a few years ago when AI was just nailing it. A little story here I think people will appreciate, which is, so deep learning, which everything we do in AI is based on today. Google wrote a seminal paper in 2012 that said, here is the math to actually execute deep learning. As deep as you want, millions of layers, if that's what you wanted to do, right? Oh my God, that opened up the world. We understood neural nets before that, but 2 or 3 layers deep, not thousands of layers deep. Broke up the world. Google did that. In 2017, Google does another seminal paper for language translation, and they developed something based on deep learning, but called a transformer. It's their paper. They put out a paper on the transformer, and then they go, oh, that's interesting. You can use it for translating entire phrases. I guess you could understand those phrases too, but whatever. OpenAI immediately starts a nonprofit to leverage the transformer, and several others do as well. This is Google's technology, but they put it out there for the world to use because you've published scientific papers, which you do. And then, 3 years ago or so, 3-4 years ago, all of a sudden OpenAI just takes off with ChatGPT. And Google says, this is an emergency. We, behind the scenes, right? We developed this technology. We gave it to the world, and everyone else is going to monetize it and crush us if we don't do something. Mm-hmm. And so you saw the founders come back and get quite active and really do sort of a tiger team effort that said, we actually have to be top of game. And that out of that came different models and finally Gemini and all that.
So what I find fascinating about the story, and I want people to kind of get this for a second. We're talking about Google. Google, top of the world. Then all of a sudden, some threat comes in here that I guess the irony is they actually created it themselves, right? Mm-hmm. And then someone else was like, and now they become the competition that could potentially hurt Google to a place where it would be really bad. And I want people to understand this. It's Google, right? So it's not just your business, ladies and gentlemen, that goes through these things. Larger businesses, can go through this and do go through this on a regular basis. People think when I build my business to this level, it'd be so much easier. It's so much this. It's so much that. The game changes. I haven't found it to do that, Kevin. Have you ever?
No. Actually, the bigger you get, the more public you get, the more stress there is, the more challenges there are. They're bigger challenges. Look, Google could have been the next Kodak. Think about that. Yeah, because Kodak developed digital cameras, developed all the sensors, developed all the technologies, patented them, did everything, and then could not imagine a time that people would want to use digital cameras. And I'm sitting here in Rochester, New York right now, so I know a lot of people who were involved on the board, CEO, etc. Could not imagine a time people use digital cameras. And the reason was, who would use that when the resolution of film is like 1,000 times better than these little sensors at the time, right? At the time, 20 something years ago. So they missed the fact that disruption often comes from beneath and eats you underneath. And people think it comes because it's a so much better product. No, sometimes it eats you from underneath, often actually. And the digital camera was one of those. They started to eat Kodak from underneath because convenience trumps all. And a digital camera was incredibly convenient. I could take unlimited pictures and just store them. And then I could share them digitally instead of having to print them out. So Kodak lost the printing business and then they lost the film business, right? Both together. And people didn't need to print them out. They could share them on Facebook, and they didn't need to have film at all. Both of those went away in a handful of years. And then it moved to the camera phone. Inventor of the camera phone is Philippe Kahn, friend of mine from Santa Cruz, actually, in Silicon Valley. He was the founder and CEO of Borland Technology, anyone who remembers Borland. Well, anyway, he went on to build the camera phone and build all the technology around the camera phone and patent that and then license it to everyone because it wasn't obvious why anyone would put a camera and a phone together. Why would you do that? Until, kind of the iPhone, and then it started to become, this makes sense. But those patents had to be licensed from someone else who did it 10 years before. But that killed Kodak. Kodak could not keep, I shouldn't say, it's still a multi-billion-dollar company in chemicals and pharma and in printing. So they're doing other things, right? And believe it or not, the film business is sold out. Literally, they're making all the film they can because there's a resurgence in people using film, like vinyl, right? So the printers that they kept, they're making film as fast as they can. They're these roll coding things. They're very interesting. So nonetheless, you don't want to be the next Kodak. Google recognized this could crush them. If everyone goes to ChatGPT and essentially searches with AI, who's going to go to Google? So Google smartly, very quickly put AI search right at the top of their results, alongside ads and everything else. They built it all together. So you are getting, for free, AI results there that are outstanding. And Gemini is giving you an answer. You can accept or reject the Gemini answer. You can look for websites, etc. So they got themselves back in the game. And today, as we talk, Gemini is one of the top models, if not the top model on any particular day. They're fighting with Anthropic, Claude. Anthropic itself is a group of people who left OpenAI to go compete with OpenAI. It's a group of people from OpenAI. And everyone at OpenAI, most of them actually came from Google and learned from Google. So it was Google to OpenAI. OpenAI split out from there. It's all the same group of people, right, that started this stuff and have carried it on. And the big models, those are the three big models. It's Claude, it's Gemini, and it's GPT 5.XX, right?
So what I love, from beneath, like this disruption from beneath, right? There was a book written a long time ago. I read it called The Innovator's Dilemma. And, it talked about innovation and, these things that happen over a period of time. And it made me think of Zoom when you were talking about product market fit. Zoom was, they were hardly known, right? It was like GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar, all the big ones. Then the pandemic came along, shifted a lot of this stuff. A lot of people started working from home, solo entrepreneurs. But GoToWebinar, GoToMeeting, it was clunky. You had to do all these things, and then Zoom just took off.
And where did the founders of Zoom come from?
You tell me.
Yeah, they came from the other companies, including GoTo.
Okay.
I just keynoted the GoTo annual conference just a few days ago. Interestingly enough, great people there. Still a big company, by the way. Yeah. Big company. People left, and the reason they left a couple of the other, it was GoTo and Blue Jeans and someone else, to form a new company is those were too hard to use, and they wanted a single button that would just work. Right. And Skype was too hard to use, right? So that's why they started Zoom. They only started Zoom because they said this needs to be easier. Even Teams today, with all due respect to Microsoft, I think is really hard to use. It's complicated. I don't know what button to push. I can't start a meeting. It complains because I'm not logged in. Look, just connect me. Just push the button. So Zoom is really good at that, right? And they just wanted simplicity. And simplicity won in an era when everyone went home in COVID and they needed simple. Zoom was simple. And then it just blew up, right? Now, after COVID, it kind of leveled off, and obviously Zoom is a good company and they're doing fine, but the kind of growth they saw, unlikely we're ever going to see that again, right? That business is now stable. It competes with GoTo, it competes with Teams. If you're Microsoft Shop today, like an enterprise, you have to use Teams.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to use Zoom, right? So, they have their own competitive issues for growth. And, they've done a great job adding features, adding AI features, but there's a big company that has its own challenges. Let's talk about the cycling company, right? On fire during COVID, the stationary cycle company, Peloton. And then after COVID, of course, everything drops off. People are selling them on eBay. They don't have time anymore. And what do? Like, they've been through 3 CEOs or something. They're doing the best they can, but it just goes to show you can have a multi-billion-dollar, huge growing business and a great model, and the rug just gets pulled out from under you, and you go, look, I'm a professional manager, but I have a lot to deal with here, right? And it's going to be a shrinking business till it's a stable business. But a growing business, you're going to grow at 50, 100% a year, 200% a year? No, not in that business. Maybe you can grow 10%, 15%, get something stable, put some nice EBIT on the bottom line. Probably all you're going to do. Dividend some out to your shareholders, right?
So, where you wrote this book, The Joy of Success, and where we were talking earlier about like jealousy is the fill in your blank of joy, right? I mean, nemesis of joy, really, when it comes down to it. This Joy of Success, the book, was really...
Joy Success Cycle.
Excuse me.
The Joy Success Cycle, yeah.
Where'd the idea come from?
Yeah. Great question. So people have always said, asked me, what is it that you do differently? You're always joyful and happy and all of these things. And, and you have 95 worldwide patents. And how do you see the problems and how do you solve the problems? And I don't know, but I started to sit down and started to write it down. And it was Goldie Hawn wrote the foreword of the book. So when you get the book, everyone will get the book. You'll see that Goldie wrote the foreword. And so it was Goldie Hawn that actually got me started thinking. She said, Kevin, I don't meet a lot of other people like me. We were just born with high dopamine. Well, we probably aren't born with more dopamine than anyone else. We probably all have about the same. But some of us have learned to find joy in every single thing that happens during the day. Not stupidly, smartly. And I'll give you an example. Maybe I have to fire someone today. Most people are going to say, this is going to suck. Oh my goodness, I got to get myself prepared. I've got to, blah, 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 just because we're negative beings. It's who we are. Right. By the way, we're negative beings and worrisome beings because we are here. Meaning our ancestors were the most worried and probably the most negative, and that kept them from getting eaten by the lion. Because those who were just happy-go-lucky got eaten by the lion, okay? But we don't have lions all the time behind the tree. It's different than business, right? We don't have to worry about that. So we can be more positive today. So when I have to fire someone, I don't approach it and go, oh, geez, this is going to suck. I go, you know what? It's going to be good for them. They may or may not realize it, but they're not performing. They probably know they're not performing. I know that they need a job. I get that. But they're not performing. They're not going to do well here. And so we're not happy, and they're not happy, and no one's happy, and everyone knows it. This is not a secret. So that's how I approach it. I say, this is what we're going to do. And I actually find joy in it because I know someone's going to think it's morbid. I don't mean it that way. I mean joy because I know that in 3 months, they're going to be a way better place. And often I have people call me 3 months later and say, you know what? Thank me. I was in a terrible place. I wasn't performing for you. I didn't have the right skill set. You need a different set. And by the way, sometimes they were great performers, but the needs of the business changed. And you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. And the needs of the business change. They don't match what they bring anymore. And there's a day you got to sit down and say, you got us to here, but you can't get us to there. Yep. And I'm sorry. And I love you. And you're the best. And here's some severance. And there's other times you got to do layoffs. I mean, this is just part of being a CEO. Right? Sales strategy, people strategy, marketing strategy, people come and go. And it's up to you to decide, how do I turn this into a joy moment for me? Right. And that's true with every interaction. It's true with being on a podcast. It's true with listening to a podcast. Like I write down all of my tasks for the day. And I find each one has to be a joy moment. I have to turn it into a joy moment. It's my mind. I control it. So when you've got 50 tasks today, or 20 tasks, or 12 tasks, each of them can be a joy booster that literally continues to boost your positive quotient for the day, or they can be a joy killer. And guess who controls that? You. You get to choose, is this going to kill my joy and take away from my positive quotient, in which case I have to dig myself out from a hole? Or am I going to find a way that sweeping the floor is going to bring me joy? Up to you. Make your choice. But if you want to be the most successful you will be, and this is the joy success cycle, then you will try to be at your top positive quotient. Let's say it's a 0 to 10 scale. You want to be at a 10 all day. Now, other things happen when you're at a 10 all day. You know what? Everyone wants to be around you. Everyone wants to talk to you. Everyone wants to be led by you. Everyone. No one wants to be led by Debbie Downer. Nobody wants to be led by a jerk, a negative person, someone who's down all the time, someone who's negative about the business, negative about their life. No one wants to be around that person. That doesn't make you a bad leader, but it's hard to follow you. Yeah. Right. So you get all of these other positive benefits by saying, I'm going to live a life of joy every single day. And let's be clear. You go to the doctor, you get a cancer diagnosis. That isn't the time to live this particular joy success cycle, right? I'm talking about the 99% of days that you live, that there isn't some horrific thing that happened. It's just your normal day. And most people turn every single day into a horrific day. Mm-hmm. They get out of bed and they start with, oh, my knees hurt from yesterday's exercise. Now, the reason I put the buzzer on is one other thing we talk about in the book. Is one of my top rules is humans complain on average of over 100 times a day, internal or external. Internal or external. Oh, my wife. Oh, my kids. Oh, my business. Oh, my this. Sometimes it's just internal in your head, but it's a complaint. And every complaint takes away a point from your positive quotient. You want to be at a 10? You wake up at a 5. You're at a 0 in 10 minutes. In 10 minutes. Oh, my toothbrush ran out of juice. Oh, I'm out of this. Oh, the breakfast the coffee wasn't done right. I'm not, someone's not, I don't have this, but someone might not be out of bed for 5 or 10 minutes. They're already at a 0. They have to dig themselves out from that to be productive. How are you going to be productive when you're down there? And no one wants to be around you. So I have the 1 complaint a day rule. You count tomorrow, everybody gets up who's listening to this, watching this. Get up and count your complaints, internal or external, for the day. Internal or external. You're going to get to 100. Maybe you get to 80. Maybe you get to 70. It'll be numbers like that. The next day you get up and you say, I only get 1. That's my goal. 1 a day. You're going to burn up your 1 in the first second. I tell you, you're going to get out of bed and go, oh, my shoulder. You've used up your 1. So this is just a reason this is a way to gamify this problem, right? Because if you gamify it, you realize if you burned up your 1 on that, you have no more the rest of the day. It's going to be really hard. So now you start to learn to save it up. You say, I'm going to save my 1 because there will be something to complain about, but it's probably at 3 o'clock, so I'm going to save it. That is fascinating. It changes people's lives. And they come back to me a few weeks later and say, I couldn't do it in the first day, but within X number of days, I got to 1 complaint a day. I now live that way. Kevin, you changed my life. I didn't set out to change your life, but maybe I'll change a few lives, right? Maybe that's all you can hope for. So, and that will bring me more joy. Then I'll invent something new.
So I love this thing because I always talked, when my daughters were growing up, I always said to them, look, a little bit of bad every day turns into a complete bad
cluster,
right?
Yeah.
Not the exact words I was using, but
No,
I think everybody gets it, right?
Not the second word, but maybe the first one. Yeah.
But a little bit of good every single day compounds into a very valuable success point in your life.
Right. Right.
It creates resilience. It creates these, because we're all going to have some doctor's visit or whatever it might be that's like, oh no. And so, but the interesting thing is the brain, quantum physics anyways, the repetition in one direction or the other, the brain doesn't care. The brain only will repeat that and make it a habit.
Right.
So if they're doing it 100 times a day and complaining over and over and over and over, it's like watching the news over and over and over. You know, you hear the same like doom,
Right.
gloom, crazy stuff. Our brain actually conditions us to start to think, and that's normal, if you will, or that's the direction we're going. So what I love about this exercise is it's conditioning people to actually think far more positively every single day.
Yes.
And then before you know it, it's just on autopilot. Like
it's on autopilot.
Right.
You're right. It just puts it on autopilot. After a few weeks, you start thinking, oh, I can't complain. I have people come back and say, I don't know how you did it, Kevin, but I didn't have any complaints yesterday, internal or external. I just got there. Said, yeah, look, you get up, you wake up. The first thing you should say is, I could have died overnight. I mean, right? Waking up is an amazing miracle thing because the alternative is death, right? So you wake up, it's already amazing. And the entire day is up to you to make of it what you will, right? It's yours to make what you will. What an amazing gift, especially in the United States. I mean, I understand there's countries that you wake up and you go, where am I going to get food today, right? But for probably your listeners, they're not thinking that. They're thinking, oh, my business is going bad and it's really hard and I'm not selling anything and the sales strategies aren't working anymore and calls aren't working, blah, 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 blah. I get that. But you can look at it another way. Yesterday, we tried this new SDR team, or last week or 2 weeks ago. It's not working. So I've learned something from that. Isn't that great? That is a moment of joy. That's not a moment of despair. It's a moment of joy. That's one less thing you have to learn tomorrow. That, which worked 5 years ago, doesn't work anymore. We talked about this a little, not in the show, but earlier, a few weeks ago, which is a lot of the things that we were using 5 or 10 years ago that used to work really, really well. And Google Ads was one of them, by the way.
Right.
Don't work as well today.
Right.
And there's lots of reasons for that. Phone calls, for example, worked exceptionally well 10 years ago, work zero today. Basically zero. You can hire all the SDR team you want, but it's hard to get anyone to answer the phone. And now most of the cell phones have blockers on them that say, I don't know this number, so I'm not even going to ring the phone. And so, it's getting hard. And so we have to come up with new strategies. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because we're learning from that. And so that's a joy moment. A learning moment is a joy moment, right? I just learned something new I didn't know yesterday that I can take forward in my business tomorrow. Isn't that fabulous? So don't despair over it. Don't despair. As a CEO, you rarely get the customer who calls you and says, I love your company. Your salespeople got that. Your CX people got that. You didn't get that. You know which ones you get. You get the ones that want to leave and they hate you. Right. And there's something gone wrong with your product or whatever, whatever. And we use and it hasn't worked right for weeks and we're going to drop you and you can sue us. And whoa, and you start to feel pretty bad about your business some days because those are the only ones you're dealing with, right? So those are the ones that make it to the worst ones make it to the CEO's desk, right? If it made it there, it's really, really bad. And it's probably a lot of money, right? The people paying $10K a year don't make it to your desk. The people paying $1 million a year make it to your desk. Right. So, I always look at those also as a joy moment. I don't know if I'll save the account or not. But this is an opportunity for me to listen. It's an opportunity for me to learn. It's an opportunity for me to learn how to be or remember or relearn how to be very, very, very humble. Because perception's reality. And, when the customer says, your product hasn't worked, blah, 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 blah. By the way, I hear this stuff every day. 9 times out of 10, maybe 99 times out of 100, it's actually something their team did. But the boss doesn't know that. All he knows is they haven't been productive for a week, and it's my fault, right? And so you have to, you have to listen. You have to understand his perception is what it is, that it's our problem. And yet somehow over the coming days, you're going to have to get some information that says, well, we've dug into it. We heard you. My God, I'm as horrified as you are. I am on it. By the way, that works a lot. I'm horrified. This is terrible. I wouldn't put up with it either. I am personally over this right now. I'll get back to you in 2 days. So I do that all the time, and I am personally on it. Like I am in with engineering, and we're going to solve the problem, right? 2 days later, I've now earned the right to come back and say, not only is it fixed and everything's going great, let me tell you what we found. do. And often it's like, oh, your team had done this wrong and SecOps blocked it over here. And fortunately, we found it and undid it. No, we didn't find any issues from our product side, but we got you up, and so you do want to let them know, when it isn't something necessarily you did. And you also want to know that you stepped in with whatever resource it took to fix it for them. So now he can't really yell at you, right? Because you did fix it. You gently, gave them the technical reasons of what happened. And sometimes it is your fault. You go, you're right. Our team should not have allowed. I had this recently with something, which is a customer used a lot of server time. I said, well, you have to pay us for that. It's in your contract. I'm not going to pay it. I'm not going to pay you. Why? Well, your team allowed it to happen, said yes to my junior team members when they said, fire up all those servers. They said yes. They didn't tell us anything. And then you ran up tens of thousands of dollars in bills, and now you want to bill me. So, well, it was your bill. Your team shouldn't have done it, should have been trained not to do it, and should have been trained to stop, and should have been trained to tell our team what it was going to cost them. They didn't do any of that. They just said, yes, sir. So that was, I said, you know what? We'll have to take responsibility for that. And my team will never do that again. They will not just say, yes, sir. They will say, hear you. Do you understand what it's going to cost? Right? And then we can get that to you. So you got to be humble. You got to listen. But what a joy moment to hear and learn from a customer how we can improve our business and improve our support for them.
When's the book coming out? In September?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're recording here in May. And so Amazon, where's it going? Everywhere?
It'll be everywhere. Yeah, it's a good sized publisher. So with distribution, so it'll be everywhere is what I'm told. It's my first book. You know what, Doug? It's my last book.
Isn't the joy in writing the book and putting it out there?
There was joy in saying I'll never write another one. It's a long process. It's a couple-year process. And lots and lots of editors. I had 4 editors, really. And, the editors, and I had a ghostwriter that would take, I would just talk. And the ghostwriter would make that into something more interesting. My words, but laid out well. And I used the female ghostwriter to counteract, and make sure that I was, approaching things in an empathetic way that might not be obvious from me, right? And so I think we got a really great balance in that team. And but then you go to the editors, and you think you've got a great book, and they just slash it up, say this is wrong and this is wrong, and you can't say this, and you got to move these chapters, and then you go to a second editor, they do it again. You go to the third editor that's at the publisher, they do it again. And finally you get the final editor that's just going through to make sure all the syntax is correct and, sort of this final stuff. So look, it's a long process. The main reason I wrote a book, and I do recommend everyone write a book, because it really solidifies your thoughts on a topic. And if there's something that you bring that's unique or interesting or that you've learned from your business, isn't it great to sit down and write it down for once in your life? And not 2 pages, but 200 pages. It's fabulous. And it's a real learning experience.
And I think there's that in itself, what I keep hearing the joy of the success cycle is consistent growth, us growing over and over and over.
Every day.
Yep. And if we focus our lives in the negative lack of joy, if you will, you have no growth. And when you have no growth, a person thinks in scarcity. When they get into the scarcity mode, they make decisions based on scarcity. And as they are doing that, then they're shortchanging their growth in the business. They're shortchanging their growth in life, relationships. This really encompasses everything as far as I'm concerned. So, Kevin, in between, the book's coming out, how do people know more about you? Where do they learn more, or how do they get a hold of you?
So my website is kevinsurace.com. The book website is joysuccesscycle.com. It has an email list that's forming that you can get on as well. Of course, I'm on LinkedIn, and people read my LinkedIn posts. I do YouTube posts, LinkedIn posts, Instagram posts, TikTok posts daily. So, I've got my social media stuff going up daily. I try to say something interesting daily. I try to say something controversial, especially around AI. since I spent so much of my career in and around the AI space, I purposely say things I'll give you an example. And we talk about this in the book. Let's say you're a coder. We all know who coders are. We know what they are. This has just recently happened in the last couple of months. People have been coders have been using, programmers have been using, developers have been using Copilot and other code helping AI systems up till, a few months ago to complete 10 or 20 or 30% of their code or help them or give them ideas, whatever. Well, here's where we are today. With the latest Claude models, it will work for hours and complete your entire application, top to bottom, front end, back end, everything. And the first person I saw do that, I don't know, it was Claude 4.6, let's say, whatever, 4.5, 4.6. He gave it a problem, and it went off, and he came back like 6 hours later and says, I'm done. It wrote 20,000 lines of code and finished the entire application, and it worked, and it was gorgeous. And the first thing that hit him wasn't wow. It was, where's my sense of purpose?
Right.
Like, what happens to me?
Right.
And what I've been telling people, and I will scream this from the rafters over and over again, is the following. Is that you mistook your sense of purpose for writing line by line of code. That was never your sense of purpose. You happen to be good at it, but it's not your sense of purpose. Your sense of purpose was the outcome or the output from that effort, because the people on the other side who are going to use your application didn't know or care how you made it, and they still don't.
Right.
They care that it meets their needs, that it's easy to use, that it has a nice UI, that it's stable, that the back end is stable, that it's secure. They care about all those things. They never cared about who wrote what line. They didn't care if you hired people, didn't hire people, did it yourself, had AI do it. They still don't care. Now, I think people in business are going to have to shift a lot of their thinking away from what they thought was their sense of purpose. So, you talk to people in marketing, and some of them say, well, I used to write this blog post and I'd spend a day writing it. And, that was my sense of purpose. I go, no, your sense of purpose was to get the blog post out. It was your taste. It was your experience. It was your thoughtfulness. It was your empathy. It was your emotion. Nobody cared how it got written, and they still don't care. In fact, if AI writes it and you clean it up and it is in your words and it has your empathy in it and the company's branding and you're done in 5 minutes, God bless. Good for you. This is a wonderful day. Your sense of purpose was not writing word by word. Your sense of purpose was to get that out and have that impact the business. That's the sense of purpose. You mistook it. So we're seeing this in music today, right? So we've got, half the musician composer community screaming, I will never use AI. It's a terrible thing. It's horrific. It's soulless. It's this, it's that. You got the other half going, at least to me, because you'll see awards behind me for film and music and stuff. So I am in that world. And half the musicians, the other half, are very, very quietly using it like crazy and say, don't tell anyone. This thing's a miracle. I can get a demo in 2 hours. It used to take me 2 weeks. This is amazing. It might be their melody. It might be their lyrics. It might be their thoughts. It might be something else. It might be they just needed a bass line or a horn line or a string run or something that they don't have to write out anymore. It's incredible. So the problem with the people who are avoiding it and saying, I will never use this over my dead body, is they mistook their sense of purpose. They thought their sense of purpose was literally playing out every note on a keyboard, every single note. I'm going to play out that string run, and in the next hour, I'll have it, and it'll be really good. It'll be nicely harmonized. And okay, but a machine now writes the string run for me in a minute.
Yep.
It's my idea. I say, I want this here. I want it from here to here. I kind of hear some ideas of sound. I can listen to 20 of them and pick the one I want and overlay it in my DAW. But so the musicians who are stuck in, I have to play every note, I good luck with that. I mean, by the way, you still can. Nobody's taking it away from you. But that wasn't your sense of purpose. Your actual sense of purpose, let's say you were writing a musical for Broadway, was to get the musical on Broadway. However you get it there, however you write that music has to be good. It has to entertain. It has to have soul. It has to have interest. It has to have emotion. And however much you use or don't use AI, no one should care. And I'll tell you, I don't care. So once you realize your sense of purpose is to entertain, if you're in the music business, that's my view, is to entertain, well, then do that. Do that. get to entertaining. And if your entertainment is generating demos for recording or putting them on Spotify or whatever it is, nobody's going to care how you do that. And that has proven out already, because there have been dozens of top 100 songs now generated by AI on Spotify. And you know what the users have said? We don't care. In fact, the bands say, we're an AI band, AI group, AI band, AI whatever. We don't actually exist. People didn't care. 4 years ago, I said, people won't care, and people yelled at me. Now I say people don't care, and they say, well, they should. Well, no, they're not going to. They just want to be entertained. Entertain the people. Use what tools you have. Same with film. So my point is, I say controversial things. I know that's a controversial thing. I think in the end, I'm right. In the end, the machines win. People will use the most advanced tools they can, and they'll use them in a variety of ways to create art or to create anything else.
I firmly agree with you. It's somebody who was in the music business a long time ago when, when electronic music first came out. Like, so, I had the first Roland synthesizer,
Do you remember people were screaming about that? You can't use a synthesizer, that you won't employ any string players. Okay. I'm sorry about that. This is what I'm using.
Neither did Van Halen in the song Jump, So,
right.
but that beginning of that part is a synthesizer. So,
yes, of course, and it's a great tune.
Yeah. And so, but back then they would see, what I'm hearing is a really current theme. Like back then, oh my gosh, electronic music, it's never going to make it. It's never going to do this. That was the purist musicians. You always got to play this.
Right.
Then, SMPTE code came along, which allowed us to actually like sync music back then.
That's right.
Right. And then
we had MIDI, we had DAWs, we had digital libraries.
Yep.
Every TV show you watch today, and you hear all of that underscore, that was all played on a keyboard into a DAW, all sampled, no musicians. One musician put it in, and he has like a day to write the 30 minutes of music in a DAW. And there no recording session, nobody played violin, it's just all in there. And people pushed back against DAWs and sample libraries 10 years ago. Today, it's the core of the business. It's like what we do. So everyone will be fine. AI is another jump forward from DAW and digital libraries, sample libraries. It's just the next step.
So I think that to encompass everything I'm hearing on our call today, it's a lot of people don't know what their purpose is, but if they focus on that joyous success cycle, they'll discover their purpose through being far more joyful.
You will. The joy success cycle will help you discover your purpose. And your purpose can no longer be something that AI does really well. So choose differently. It can be the outcome, the output. It can be your family. It can be something else. But you're only going to be working on in the future things where you add real value. And you're going to add real value to the outputs of AI, to the inputs of AI, to the analysis with AI. But you're not going to be writing word by word probably of anything. It's kind of ridiculous, right? Who's going to do that? Who's going to pay you to do that? Who's going to pay you to look at a huge spreadsheet with 50 tabs and decide what it means? No, you're going to put that into Gemini, and Gemini will tell you how it impacts your business and what you have to look for and what you have to change. Right. Now you're adding value to the strategy and the tactics of the business. You had no value sitting there for 3 hours analyzing 50 tabs. That's craziness.
This is awesome. So, folks, remember, there was a time where there were things, and they still are here today, but they were called like junior consultants, if you will. And a consulting firm would hire these people, and they'd go out and do all the research and all this and that, and all the focus groups and all that other stuff. Now you could do it with AI.
I do it every day. I have a $5 million research result from an hour working with Claude, let's say, that would have cost me $5 million just 5 years ago with McKinsey.
Right.
And literally the research that it does and the reports that it works on, and it goes through and it'll spend 20 minutes on it and go, boom, here's your report, here's the charts, I go, oh my goodness, would have cost me $5 million.
Right.
And boom, I've got it.
But the output's the same. It's information for human beings to converse and to figure out,
analyze, argue with, spar with.
Exactly. And so, folks, what I want you to really take out of this conversation is this isn't like soft skills. People will call this a soft skill. The joy of the success cycle is actually the core of your life, the core of your business, the core of your happiness, the core of your output, everything we're talking about. And if you're joyful about AI in this capacity, and by the way, you better be, because it's like it's when
It's
the
here.
internet, the internet came in. I remember people going, "Oh no," or TV, right? No, TV
Right.
will
I don't
never
need to use
take.
that.
Right? Now it's like no one, most people can't live without a television. So this is something here to stay, here to continue. So, Kevin, I thank you so much for being on the CEO Sales Strategies podcast and bringing the information to people. I've got a feeling there are a few people that pulled their car over and they're scratching their head a little, maybe even crying in the corner of the car, but
Don't
that's
cry.
okay.
This is a joyful moment for you because hopefully one thing that the two of us said today will ring true to you and you might bring into your life or your business that will bring you more success.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for being here again today, Kevin. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Doug.
All right, everyone. AI is not coming. AI is already here. And the question is no longer whether it will change your business. The question is whether you will use it to increase speed, reduce waste, protect cash, and improve decision making before your competitors do. Kevin brought up something every founder should pay attention to. Companies do not usually die because the founder stopped caring. They die because they run out of money before they find the right timing, the right model, or the right market fit. Now that is a revenue and margin problem. It is a cash flow problem. It is a leadership problem. And in many companies, it is also a visibility problem. You may already have hidden revenue, wasted labor, margin leakage, stalled follow-up, or outdated processes sitting inside your company right now. You have already paid to create those opportunities. They are just not showing up in your bank account yet. That is exactly what diagnostic that we do at CEO Sales Strategies is designed to find. So if you want to identify where your company is leaking revenue, margin, cash, or valuation, email me at doug@ceosalesstrategies.com. Put diagnostic in the subject line, and let's find the hidden money and growth opportunities already sitting inside your business. I am Doug C. Brown with the CEO Sales Strategies podcast. Now go adapt faster than the market can disrupt you. To your success.